But then also with comedy, you get a lot of the egos where people want the other guy not to do well or the other guy to fail. Yeah, I don't care how you get up there.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it, whatever.
Right.
But there's got to be a point when you're there.
Do something with it.
Yeah, be good. And then don't complain next week that, oh, that guy, he put me on the show and he said some inappropriate stuff. The only reason you got on that show, the worst audience, obviously, is the woke.
The wokes.
Liberal, everybody get fly. I don't even know where you're at a comedy show.
Yeah.
So I would say those.
People looking to be offended, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point of comedy, is to offend in a lot of ways. Starting stand-up at a relatively advanced age, Rich Shultis quickly became a regular at New York City comedy clubs due to his vast life experience, hard work, professionalism, and most importantly, his outrageously funny material. Rich now performs at clubs and venues throughout the United States as well as internationally, leaving the audience in stitches and wanting more. Rich covers a broad and diverse spectrum of material with a unique perspective. Nothing is out of bounds, delivering with a truly unique and diverse style combined with truthfulness and art, leaving audiences not only laughing, but shaking their heads, yes. Rich works with several charitable organizations and is a certified fundraiser for the Memorial Sloan Kettering Pediatrics Cancer Center. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome stand-up comedian Rich Shultis.
Over 75% of the people watching this video are not subscribed. Could you please take a moment to subscribe to the Thaiger Podcast? It would really help us out.
All right. Hello, Rich.
What's up, my brother?
Chillin'. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. You guys sent a car for me. I feel like a celebrity now.
A ride and everything.
Yeah, even though it took, we were only going about 26 feet, and it took about 15 minutes.
Well, welcome to Bangkok,
I know
man.
that. I know it now.
For the course.
I know it now.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, you always got to make sure you book in extra time. Or if you're feeling brave, you can hop on the back of one of those scooters and save a lot of time just cutting in between traffic.
Yeah, like the problem. I'm afraid. I'm not brave like you.
It took me a few years. I got to tell you, it was not easy going for me.
You're good with it now?
I am. Like, I'm practically local. Well, that's a joke, but yeah.
It's weird because I see the locals are so good at it. I see the young ladies. They're dressed. They come out of the club,
right?
Just dressed,
hopping on the
high
back.
heels, hop on the back sideways, start doing their makeup. I did it once. I held on to the guy like he was my
dear life.
I was like his girlfriend.
I'm sure it was a cute sight. I love the image.
Yeah, yeah. He was a little guy. I'm holding on to him. Started kissing the back of his neck.
So
it was
romantic.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, cool. That's beautiful. Don't kiss your Grab drivers, people, please. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's not allowed? Is that culturally unacceptable?
A bit of a
here?
taboo here, but you know what? You're a tourist. I'm sure they're being forgiving.
Hey, he didn't seem to mind.
Hey, it works. Well, anyways, you've gotten into comedy, and I was going to ask about your life before you got into comedy, and then how you took the plunge. How did you manage to work up the courage to get up on stage?
Well, always wanted to do it. When I was a kid, when they ask what do you want to be, one of the things was
comedian,
baseball player, and comedian, and my lack of skills at baseball
kind of pigeonholed you.
Showed itself pretty quick. Yeah. And then with comedy, as you know, because you just recently did your first set.
Trying to forget that, but thank you.
No, don't. That's, hey, listen, it's better it went that way because you don't get too high. You don't think it. What happens is if you have a good set the first time out, you think it's going to be that easy all the time. So when that one does come, it's devastating. You got it right out of the
Yeah.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah. Oh, I bombed right off the bat. So,
yeah, well,
the Band-Aid is ripped.
Is it a bomb? Is it? I mean, your first time you're trying it is, it's like it's first time doing anything.
Yeah, yeah.
How can you be good at the very first time? I mean, literally the first time you do it.
Yeah.
So, but I always wanted to do it. Life kind of got in the way. I had a son when I was young. I got into. Do you ask me what I've done?
Yeah.
I've done everything from selling vacuum cleaners, insurance, bartender, flipped houses. So I did a lot of things.
Right.
So finally, got to the point where my son was grown. A lot of my obligations were not as pressing. I just, one day I went, I'm going to go down to New York City and do it. Took the train, went down to the city.
In the mecca of comedy, no less.
And did it. So, that's how it started. And, a little late in life, but better late than never.
How old were you when you did take the plunge?
probably about 43.
43.
43, I went down. I was still living in upstate New York. So I went down, I did it, and I was kind of, it's a little different comedy scene than here. Here, your open mics are actually almost shows. They're kind of almost shows.
Right.
Open mics in New York City are a bunch of comedians in a place that's not a comedy club. Sometimes it's in the comedy club, but it's not when the comedy club is really open. It's like 4 hours. Or they used to have a lot of them in restaurants and stuff like that, like the downstairs of a restaurant. So it was just basically 20 comedians doing 5 minutes apiece in front of 20 comedians.
Right. So it's like in-house kind of.
It was hard. The only way I can explain it is like masturbating to a picture of your sister.
Good God.
Except a little less fulfilling. You know what I mean?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Well,
it was tough.
Is it because they're such tough critics, or what's the reason?
No, because when you're a comic, especially when you're first starting out, all you're thinking about is getting up there and doing your 5 minutes of open mic material. So that you're really not paying attention. Sometimes they would, or sometimes you'd have a bunch of guys, and it was just the right atmosphere. But for the most part, it's just when you first start out and you're doing open mics, it's just other comedians looking to go up on stage and say their 5 minutes.
So everybody's focused on themselves.
Basically,
Yeah.
Basically.
And I imagine the nerves of that is probably keeping you from paying attention or enjoying the rest of the night.
Yeah, because you're going over, and I'm sure before that set, you were going over that thing in your head. You're going over that thing, and I see that here. And I actually said to the other comedians, and I'm not one to, who am I to give advice? But I see them looking at their set before they're going on, and they're trying to, I'm trying to get this. And I always say to them, because it was said to me a long time ago, you wrote that. That's there. You don't need those.
Don't memorize it, right?
You know it. You just you know it is what I tried. Just go up there. The audience isn't going to know that you didn't say this word or you didn't quite get it the way you wanted to. Just you go.
It's got to be natural, right?
Yeah, because there's nothing that looks worse when you're up on stage and you're going over to look at your notes.
Yeah,
it's a terrible look, and I try to you do that.
I did that. Oh no.
I try to tell people that all the time. I said it's just even when you're first starting out, it's just a bad.
Yeah.
It's just a bad look.
You know what told me that it was okay? I saw Neil Brennan, right, the co-creator of Chappelle's Show, in that same room that we went up on Friday. And he was checking his notes the whole time.
I'm going to tell you something about Neil Brennan. He's a hack. No, I'm just kidding. He's fantastic.
He is a pro.
Right.
That's why he can do it.
Well, what he's doing is, and there are some people who do that. There's some people who won't do it.
Yeah.
You're never going to see Seinfeld or Chappelle or Chris Rock or any of those guys get up on stage and looking at their notes.
Right.
They just don't do it. There's just some comedians that won't do it. Now, what he's doing, that show is so meaningless to him.
Yeah.
Meaning that
it's reps.
He's just right. He's just looking to get some. So that might have been stuff he just wrote down on his way there.
Yeah.
It might have been. So
that's what's crazy about it is the quality.
Yeah. So he might have just wrote that down. Okay. His notes aren't saying. His notes, if he's looking at his notes, I'm sure when he looks over, it doesn't say dinosaur, and then, the dinosaur takes a poop. It's just going to say dinosaur.
Right.
He's going to look at that. Oh, okay, this is what I thought about the dinosaur.
Just a quick bullet point each time, right? Yeah.
So some people do that, and with him, it's kind of all right because he's working. He's doing kind of whoever show he was doing kind of a favor.
Yeah.
Neil Brennan coming on your show.
Oh, yeah.
But you're doing him a favor, too, because this is how these guys get to these specials.
Right. It's like training, kind of, right? Like you work out the material on the tour, and then eventually you shoot the thing for Netflix.
Or you're working it out for a big show. Some of them, there's some comedians that are at a level where they're not doing a special twice a year.
Yeah.
But they're working out, especially in New York, they'll be working out in the clubs, and then on the weekend when they go out on the road, they're not working on stuff. They're doing their thing.
It's polished and it's ready to go and everything like that. So then, if I can ask, then how was your first attempt getting up on stage? What was that story like?
Here's the first attempt. It was my first actual show that I did, not open mic. The first actual show I did in front of a real audience went incredibly well.
Wow.
For the first time, which was good and bad. It was, I had everybody was, was getting off stage. Oh, that was fantastic, and that was,
Clapping you on the back. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can't believe that's your first. That's unbelievable. Blah
Nice.
blah blah. And then reality
Set
kinda
in.
sets it. Reality kind of sets it. I was never terrible. Even from the beginning. I was never, because I kind of had. I always had punchlines. I had an idea of what was funny.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't just up there, and you see that. Oh, it's here. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
People just talking a premise and not getting to the
Punchline.
well, whatever to make you can tell a funny story if there's bang, bang, bangs all the way through it.
Yeah.
But sometimes people are just up there talking about stuff, and you're going, okay.
Yeah.
What?
I was supposed to laugh, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Where did that? I don't know what did I miss that? So
Yeah.
yes, I was lucky in the fact that I did well. I never really sucked. I mean, I wasn't good. But I was never to the point.
You start somewhere, right?
Yeah, I was on stage where I was, where I'd get off and I'd go, wow, man, I was lost.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think that you benefited from that wealth of experience you had in life before entering comedy? Because you were working a bunch of different jobs before.
Yes, most certainly.
Do you draw on that
Most
for your
certainly.
material?
Yeah. Most certainly I did. And also, when I was young, I boxed a few times.
Oh, yeah?
Very similar.
The nerves, maybe?
The nerves. And it's not just the nerves. You get both, because it's not just the nerves that you're going in there and maybe getting your ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
It's the nerves that, you're performing in front of people.
Right, yeah.
It's just as that's the more nerve-wracking of it.
Right. There's
Believe
like the promise of glory or humiliation at the end of it.
Right. You want to perform well. So it's the same, the getting beat up was probably third or fourth.
Yeah.
Of the nerves.
So you were going, oh, okay, no.
Yeah, it wasn't even, the first one was, getting in there and, am I going to look like a fool in front of my friends and family and everybody else in the audience? And then secondly, how am I going to look physically? And then, getting beat up was, like I said, wasn't even the first two.
Yeah.
But boxing was very much like that. You go in there, you get same thing. Once you get used, it's like sparring. Most people would never even step, sparring to them would be outrageously dangerous and scary to them. But once you start doing sparring's like an open mic.
Yeah. It's interesting. You kind of bring up an interesting point, because there seems to be a lot of crossover of culture between the combat sports and the comedians. I got to say, you got people like Joe Rogan, right?
Right.
He's like the main host for the UFC.
Right.
And there's tons of comedians, and there's MMA guys turned comedian.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of close relationships there. So, what is it about that? What do you think?
I think it has to do with, the willingness to, because if you're going to be a good fighter, you really have to train. You really have to do it right. You have to put in, again, the reps. You got to grapple. You got to, got to stay in shape. It's kind of the same thing with comedy. If you're going to do it right, and again, I'm a bad example of it because I kind of do everything I do on the fly. I just do everything enough that might be a little above. So I kind of do, even with sports, I kind of did everything on the bit on the fly. But I think with the MMA and the fighting and where it correlates with comedy is they're willing to put in the work. They're willing to get up on stage. They're willing to take the chance of humiliating themselves. They're willing to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot. It's easy. And you'll know this with comedy. I don't know if you know it now, but you will know it. There's nuts out there doing comedy. And they might not be good at it. Some of them are. But you'll just see a lot of nuts that never really get better.
Yeah.
But they'll do it. But it's different because they don't
care about the humiliation.
Crazy. It's just, they're just up there. You'll see it, people on stage, you go, what the hell is going on? When
Shameless.
Yeah,
that's
we
it.
had. Well, that's another one. Shameless is one thing. The other one is they're just so. The people
Unaware?
who are crazy, the unaware,
Yeah.
where people will go up there and I watch them. I go, this joke has never ever worked. I seen
It's
it.
not gonna work.
I've even
right?
seen it here in Thailand with
Yeah.
guys I've seen. Because I've been out here now. I think the first time I came out here has to be about 4 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And you kind of
You see similar faces. right?
Well,
Yeah.
I see the same guys, and I'll be going. And they'll start a bit. I'll go, "How are you doing this bit? I've never seen this." Or they'll start doing it, and I'll go, oh, wait a minute, maybe they worked on this. Let me see what they did with this bit to get it. Because obviously, if they're doing 4 years later.
Yeah, they're still working on it. Yeah.
Well, they got it right. Why would you still be doing it? And I'll go, wait a minute, that bit still doesn't work. What have you? But so, that's another thing where people are just so unaware of. And I was like that with sports. I'm like that with, man, I just know. I know how good my performance was.
Yeah, really, you can just tell as soon as you get off the stage.
It's the same thing with sport. I knew how good I was.
Yeah.
If I had a good game, I had a good game.
Yeah.
If I had an okay game. Same thing with going up on stage. So people go, oh, you did. I go, ugh.
I think you touched on it, too. I think there's a bit of a self-deprecating nature to both comedians and the combat guys because, like you said, they're putting themselves out there and they could fail. Like, it's a 50-50 shot when those guys go out there. And that, it's machismo. They're supposed to be killers, but then they go out and get killed.
Yeah.
They have to deal with that as a reality of their career,
Right. And you'll
too.
see the real guys in them. Those guys respect each other. They'll talk all that. But that's the difference. That's where it stops with the comedy.
Yup. Yeah.
Because you go out there and, we're talking, we're talking shit talk to each other before the fight to promote the fight or to scare each other or whatever. After that fight, you're hugging because you respect that.
Yeah. Not in comedy?
Well, comedy, you respect the person going up.
But not the material?
Well, sometimes you were like, well, that wasn't much of a fight. you know? But then also with comedy, you get a lot of the egos where people want they want the other guy not to do well or the other guy to fail.
So they sliding in their lane or something like that.
Well, so they can look better. You know what I mean? I go under the premise that whatever you do, I'm going to go up there and do my thing. Yeah. It might be better than you. I might do better than you that night but whatever it is,
it's me.
I'm doing it. So I don't really I kind of want to see I like to see other people do well, especially when somebody's really trying and they're starting out. I'm really, if I could help them, which I can't.
No. Well, I saw you encouraging one of the comedians who went on before you on Friday in between sets. And
I was giving him bad advice, so he'll fail in the future.
But you were still giving him advice, and that you were going out of your way to do it, and that was I thought that was very sweet.
No, well, I just saw something that only I think he could do, which would be a good niche for him.
Sure.
To make so I was fresh on my mind. I wanted.
And you encouraged right away.
Yeah. Whether he'll do it, who knows?
Yeah, but that's all you can do.
That's right.
Like all you can do is try to help. And it's this comedy's it's a growing pie, right? Like it's not it's in my mind, comedy is only getting bigger in terms of market share of entertainment. And if that pie gets bigger, there's more pie for everybody.
Right.
So no need to tear each other down.
No, there's no reason. And even with, it's like anything else, the cream always comes to the guys who are good, the gals who are good. It'll rise. They're gonna get there get there anyway. Now, that being said, doesn't mean you're gonna be successful. It might mean that you're a good comedian, but doesn't
always translate.
Yeah, my friend Mike Faberman, who's fairly well known. He has some good shows. He's fairly well known out in the California scene. He's a national headliner. He said to me one day, Rich, you just got to keep on doing it till they can't deny you. Get good where they can't deny you. And I said to him, and they still will. And he went, you know what, you're right. So, especially in this day and age, because now it being funny is, it's sort of like I said with boxing, getting beaten up. It's probably the fifth most important thing, being funny. Social media presence.
Yep.
Certainly number one.
Yeah.
You putting asses in the seats.
Yep.
That's what they want. So
it's a business.
Yes, a club owner doesn't care. If you can fill his club for a weekend,
say whatever you want.
Right. He might be. He would rather you be funny.
Right.
And the crowd enjoy it, so they come back. But if they're sitting there, that's the most important.
That's the priority.
Thing. Yeah. And then from there, it's kind of all right. Who you know?
Yeah.
So
speaking of putting butts in seats, then how do you expect, or how do you think the comedy scene is going to unfold, like out here in Asia and Thailand too? Do you think it's going to grow?
Well, it's got to grow.
Right. We're on the ground floor now.
You can't really go any other direction. But now I can't obviously speak for other countries. I can speak for Thailand because I've been here.
Yep.
I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of opportunity out here if it can be put together correctly.
Right.
And I see the guys who are trying to do it with Chris,
if
Jonathan,
you build it, they will come.
They're trying to push the comedy scene, but it's it's difficult to do. They're doing it in other venues that are allowing them to do comedy, and of course, the best thing to do is get a comedy club where you're in charge. You can have a show every night. Put it somewhere because there's a lot of obviously here you got to get the tourists to come in.
Yeah, of course.
Or the people who
big names,
expats.
Oh, and the audience, right?
Yeah, it's like anything else. It's easy in entertainment. It's easy to, especially comedy. It's easy to get the comedians. If I put on a show tomorrow,
right? It's not like a rock band where you got to set up like a whole light show and everything. Right?
I'll put on Facebook tomorrow, and if I said I had a show, anywhere, there'd be 20 comedians there. Even in Thailand, I could get them there.
Cool.
The venue's easy to get. There's venues say, okay, I got this open room, go up there and do it. Those two things are easy to do. To get the people to come in,
audiences.
That's where the money is.
Yeah.
So that's it. You gotta. I think there's a kind of coherent community here who are trying to work together. It's the comedians are raw, which is okay. They
start somewhere.
Yeah, they can grow. I think there's I think if done correctly, it could be something big because as I was saying to you earlier, people go to New York to see comedy.
Yeah, the Mecca. Like I was saying,
they'll come in. Hey, we're going to go see what are we going to do in New York? We're going to go see a play, go to a museum. Go
Doesn't matter who it is. We're just going to go see comedy.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. And that's the thing you can get going over here. There's two ways you make a show successful. When I say a show, an ongoing production. Right. You can either bring in big names who are going to pack the place, which is very difficult to do because
you got to do that regularly.
Right. And you got to, there's a chance you're going to lose a lot of money on that.
Yeah. They're not cheap.
Some of these guys get 30, 40 grand a show.
Yeah.
Or the easier way to do it is consistently put on a good show. So people just go, I'm going to go to Bangkok Comedy Club. Instead of doing, I'm going to go see a temple. If you can add in,
that should be
why
an
I'm
attraction,
there.
Right.
I'm going to add. You know what? I heard there's a good Bangkok. There's comedy fans.
Yeah.
And I've learned this, and it's weird in that when I was young, I was very big comedy fan. I loved to watch stand-up comedy, which has kind of ruined it as I've gotten older and become a stand-up comedy. It's like
seeing how the sausage is made.
Right. Well, yeah. Now instead of and I do enjoy it when somebody's up there doing something. I enjoy it, but a lot of times I'm more not critiquing, and I'm just kind of
it's the artist's eye. Instead of just the consumer.
Yeah. Well, I don't consider myself an artist. I don't know if you've seen my act.
I consider you an artist.
I wouldn't consider myself an artist, but yeah, I just see it I see it in a different way. But there's people who are like comedy fans where they love watching the show. They're
just there to get drunk and have laughs.
Yeah,
right?
And they're the best.
Those are good audiences.
Good audience who know comedy.
Yeah.
Because as you seen the other night, the dude we were talking to, who's from New York and says he went to comedy shows and stuff. That guy knew comedy.
Yeah.
Even though he was a little harsh.
He was,
New York,
but also understandable because he's seen it at the highest level.
Yeah. So nothing he said was wrong. But there's the guys that. When you give them a good show, they're the guys who are like, man,
and that's the thing. He's here, right? He's here and he wants comedy. And, Jim Jeffries came in December, sold 3,000 tickets. There's an audience.
Now, Jeffries, though, but did you get a lot of Australians come in to see him?
I assume. I'm not. I was there. But, but my partner's Australian, so I was 50% Australian on that one.
Okay, I got
you. Yeah, I mean, and Neil Brennan sold out the room. Like, he could have done way bigger venue, but it was like they packed us in there. For that one.
And that was where?
At the BKK Comedy Club where we were on Friday.
Oh, what is that? Only holds like 80.
It had like 100 I think they packed 150 people in there.
No way.
It was insane. I'm telling you, man. It was to the rafters. They were standing.
Really?
So, yeah.
So it goes to show you.
Yeah.
They know comedy here.
There is an audience here.
You just got to, and I'm not the one to figure out how to do that.
Right.
But if you're asking me, what do I think?
Looking for insights.
I mean, I think it's there, but I think, the start is to get your own room, make it a real comedy, make it a real comedy club where you got somebody who is one or two things, a very good producer, a very good promoter, somebody who's very good at getting the people in.
Yep.
And no, he actually need and who really cares about comedy.
Right.
You know, if you're just looking, you can get away with somebody who's just good at getting the show packed. Right, whatever it is, you can do that, and they don't care about the comedy. You'll still have a successful club if you got good comics.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's still comics going up on stage, so better be funny. Like, that's what you're selling.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I think that, like you said, so there's another thing about consistency here. These open mic nights, or the places that do open mic nights in New York, it's always just open mic, right? There's never any, like, improv comedy troupes coming in there or other kinds of shows, right? It's pretty pure stand-up.
There's improv comedy groups, and now improv is, I can't speak too intelligently on that. Well, I can't speak intelligently on almost any subject.
Nobody
you bring
asked
up.
for intelligence
That's
here.
right.
Okay, we're good.
But there's improv groups. There's a couple improv theaters.
But it's typically separated, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very seldom. Very seldom do you have it. And improv is.
It's a very different beast.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have people going to see improv like they go to see stand-up.
Right.
I mean, because sometimes improv, I don't know if you've seen, sometimes improv is very funny, and you watch it and you go, oh, that's so, what they're doing is so quick on their
witty.
feet. And
sometimes it's excruciating.
Yeah, sometimes you're just like, oh. You know, you can just see
I'm
them
paying for this.
Yeah. Well, you feel bad for them because you're going, oh, man, they got off track. This one ran off the rails. So, I always like when somebody breaks I've done it a couple times. I was big at, and they don't like that when I'd break the fourth wall.
Oh.
And kind of, like things would be
Approach
going
the
off.
audience
And
or
I would
something
kind of
like that,
I'd kind of like lean to the audience. I go, okay, let's face it.
Yeah.
This one did not go. This wasn't as, I wasn't.
Yeah.
You got to get back to the pickle or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's interactive, right? You're with an audience, so
right. I've been on. They had a dating show in New York. I think it's called The Mating Game or something.
The Mating Game.
So
Nice.
They'll have. They would have me on, and everybody would be kind of going along with the format. You know, it's always some young hot girl.
Sure.
No, they just want me on for, I don't know,
Giggles.
I guess whatever. And I would just start, completely go off.
Yeah.
They'd ask me, I'd go off the rails, start talking to you, and they. At first they didn't like it, but then they started calling me back.
Then I guess you did something right.
Yeah, well, then they would have my buddy on, and he was he's way nuts than I.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even be a dating show. No, it'd be just destroying each other and stories and stuff. So that was sort of the closest I got to improv. But improv, I don't think. You could have an improv troupe. Unless they're Second City Television, you ain't gonna make no money.
Second City. Yeah, that's the thing. Well, because at the comedy nights here, they switch back and forth a little bit between stand-up and improv.
People come in and watch improv.
So I guess sometimes I've been to one show and it was pretty full up. So
oh, really?
Yeah. I think a lot of that is because the improv troupe, there's more of them, and then they have a lot of friends that will come to support them.
And now here's the thing. Does that work? You get a show off.
Yeah.
You can't live on that.
Right.
You got to, the trick is,
right.
To bring, and I understand, it's nice to have the 5 comedians on the show, bringing 5 of their friends, and
right.
now you got an audience of 25, 30.
Yeah.
I understand that, but there's got to be a point where if the comedy scene is going to work, there's got to be a point where that club.
That's almost like a school play, right? It's like your parents showing up, like, yay.
Yeah. No, they got them in New York called bringer shows.
For sure, but it's I think it's good for reps, good for practice, but I don't think that the market is as strong for improv as it is for stand-up.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think, but you can throw it in if you got a comedy club. Now you got a place, Wednesday nights improv night.
Yeah. I think that's it, right? Just keep it consistent is kind of the thing.
Whatever you do,
week
but
in,
that's
week
the
out.
thing. Have the show, people in.
Yep.
Get the name out.
Yep.
Because just like New York, there's some people come to New York 2-3 times a year. They want to come. I went to that club last year.
Thailand's a lovely destation. Like, I feel like you can definitely just hit up some of these, not even like upper tier Netflix level comedians, but like even, like smaller, like New York comedians like yourself.
Yeah,
you
get guys like me coming in who'll just sitting around doing nothing.
But that's
laying
important.
in their bed and going, hey, you want to do a show? Yeah, let me come in.
Well, but that's important, right? Like that's part of that's.
Oh
part of the growth.
And that's what and the thing is, if you get. a higher level of comedians, and you want the local people to be going there, local comedians to go in there, and I've seen some good ones.
Yeah,
I've seen some good.
They do exist.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to say I don't want to say their names, because if I don't say everybody's name, then the ones names I don't say going to
Playing
go.
favorites.
No, I just don't want to. I want to. Hey, listen, I want to play all the shows when I come back here.
Fair
next
play.
time.
You'll be invited, I'm sure.
Thank you. But it's the local guys get better, so they can go in and start. They can go in on a Thursday night and say, all right, hey, that guy was good. So you got to have those guys around, and that's the one thing you got in New York.
Yeah,
You
course.
you throw a rock anywhere, you're going to hit some
embarrassment of riches over there.
Oh yeah, there's some real, and there's guys that probably never even heard of over here.
Right.
They're absolutely fantastic.
Oh, I know. I've seen some
Absolutely
and like you said, the YouTubers, right? There's a lot of people that are really good. What is his name? Do you know Mateo Lane? He's a big he's a New York gay comic who just crushes the Laugh Factory.
Oh,
Or
really?
No, that's LA. What's
Laugh
Comedy
Factory's
Cellar? Comedy Cellar's New
He's
York.
in the Comedy Cellar?
Yeah. And
Oh, really?
He does really good bits, and they just pop up on YouTube all the time.
Oh, he's in the cellar.
Yeah, I believe so.
Huh.
Yeah. Mateo Lane, he's really big.
I gotta
YouTuber
look.
guy.
I gotta look him.
He's
up.
really, really
but
good.
There's many guys like that.
Right.
They play the cellar. They play. They play all the rooms, but
Yeah.
they're just fantastic comedians.
You know what's changing though is I don't know if a lot of these guys are. I mean, I think a lot of them are still touring. But man, there's a lot of money to be made just doing social media stuff and working the same clubs in New York and then just pumping your material out.
There's some guys who aren't even, they're not even that great, to be honest with you. Just so good at social media,
Right.
That they get out there and just, as we said before, they'll go into a club. They got their million followers.
Yeah.
They can fill the club for the weekend, whether they great or not. They move on to the next
Yeah.
one. But they do that with old time sitcom actors.
Yeah.
Todd Bridges does it. What's his Skippy? I can't even think what he was. He was the younger brother on the one with Michael J. Fox.
Spin City.
No. When Michael
Further
J.
back.
Fox was like the 15-year-old Republican.
I do remember.
You know the show.
Yeah,
the kid who was it was a little kid on that show.
Yeah.
Now the stand-up comedy.
Oh, cool.
So there's a lot of people who go do that. Now, are they good? I'm not going to.
They got to
I'm
recognize.
not going to judge them. They got to recognize. So all they have to do is people come in to see them. They'll fill up the club for a night, and they move
Bob's
on.
your uncle. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the
Whether you're good or not is irrelevant.
at that for that one night. And I'm not saying they're bad.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're good. Some of them are bad. Some of them are okay. But
it's the social media presence and the recognizability.
That's it. So are they funny? So a lot of times what they'll do is the feature will be the comedian that kills it.
Yeah.
And then these guys go on and you got all right, I saw whoever from whoever.
Well,
whatever.
so that takes me to my next one then. So, yeah, finding success in comedy, how important is it to have like good connections or relationships with club owners or other tour agents, things like that? Very important.
Very important.
How so?
Because if you got a good relationship with the club owner, you got a place to go in and whether you're making money at the club or not, you got a place to go in and work out.
Yeah.
To work out your material. So you get up on stage a lot. Who same thing. They can get you on this show. They can get you on that show. They can get you,
right?
A part in a whatever.
Right, acting gigs even.
Yeah.
That.
So that's more important how good you are.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I would have said that back in probably in the 80s, which was the mecca not the mecca, but was the
golden age.
Yeah, I guess the golden age, of when talent kind of rose to the top.
Right.
Now it's there's a lot of
media's so democratized now.
Yeah.
It's like kind of all spread out. There's so many little corners.
Yeah,
in each
and
market.
people find their niche, and I see, and one of the things I see going on right now, and I don't mean to be misogynist or whatever, but you see these girls that only reason they're getting booked on shows, and the only reason people are watching them, because they got their hanging out on all their videos on social media. So the horny producers are.
It's a huge deal in all social media. like including like Twitch streamers and all that stuff, like where, you know, girls are selling their sexuality.
Right.
Right. It's like, all right, where are we drawing the line between pornography and entertainer here?
Well, I don't even, you know, and I don't really.
Strong.
Yeah, but I understand your point. I don't even care about that point because then if you get on, I don't care how you get on that stage. You know.
Yeah.
Listen, I've given to get on. I think I got on that show the other night.
Baby,
and here's the weird thing: I didn't even do it to the owner or the producer, just some random guy outside.
That was me in a mask.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
I still got on stage. But that being said, yeah, I don't care how you get up there.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it, whatever.
Right.
But there's got to be a point when you're there.
Do something with it.
Yeah, be good, and then don't complain next week that, oh, you know, that guy put me on the show and he said some inappropriate. The only reason you got on that show
was being inappropriate.
Right. Or, well, for lack of a better, but that's the only reason he wanted, because he didn't put you on that show because he saw how funny you were. He put you on that show because he's going, you know what? I like the way she looks.
It'll draw some male eyes,
right,
won't it? Yeah.
So get up there and do well. And I know female comedians who just crush it.
Oh, man, yeah.
They make me laugh. I love hanging out with them. They're very talented
I gotta say,
people.
like, the female comedians of the recent era have just exploded in talent, in my opinion. Like, because I've been following comedy from a very young age too. I grew up on Carlin and Pryor, like young, like
so what female? Think about that. When those guys were hot, what big female comedians were there?
There weren't any.
Phyllis Diller,
right?
Maybe the
like
silly
Rosie O'Donnell, like, you know what I mean? Like the Roseanne.
Roseanne was the exception. She was the first one to come. I think she was one of the first ones because everybody else was on there. Who was the lady who did the
roasts? You talking about?
She took over the Tonight Show there for a while.
Oh,
skinny girl.
Chelsea Handler? Are you talking about?
No. She's dead now. An older lady. She did Joan Rivers.
Yeah.
She was probably one of the first female comedians that was kind of a crossover where it wasn't this ditzy.
She was always doing the red carpet stuff, but then like
but before that she was comedian. So I think she did well. I never dug her stuff. But then Roseanne came out, and she was kind of the raw.
Right.
She did the
she was
housewife.
You
know, so she found a niche, and she did her thing. But think of it. There was her.
It's like a handful, right? Yeah, you can count them on your hand.
I remember, the little cute girl, Janine Garofalo.
Yeah.
Her name, Janine.
Yeah, Janine Garofalo.
She was another one, one of the first ones. She was more like maybe the. No, she was in the 80s. I remember she did
I think it was 90s.
She did. I'll tell you why. I remember she did a joke and it stuck with me. She was talking about, and it's the first time I've seen real good, kind of that sarcasm. That
her real deadpan. She's good with that.
Yeah. And she was going. She was talking about frizzy hair. You know, because back in the 80s, people
Perms.
had the frizzy hair. So she was going, I don't understand. She goes, they got the conditioner. She goes, it's very inexpensive. She goes, just a little spot, like a dime. She went like that. I just thought it was just hilarious the way she did it.
Just her affectation, right?
Yeah, and I went, oh. But like you're saying, that was one of the 80s. I don't know how in the 80s. How many can you name?
That's what I mean. But these days, I see a million great girls.
Yes.
Like, I've seen so many Netflix specials come out from names I've never heard, and I just pop it on, crushing it. What is it? Eliza Scherlinger. I can't remember. There's like a bunch that have made it to Netflix now that are just absolutely. They're blending into me a little bit because everyone's so good. And, and I'm just. Not used to it. You know, you had your Sarah Silverman, Lisa Lampanelli's, right? Like,
Lisa Lampanelli. She had a niche though.
Very.
Yeah,
niche,
she was
right?
the black guys,
right.
The black guys, gay guy.
I've had more. Oh God, she's got some good ones too that I probably shouldn't say on air. But these staples of the roasts and things like that, they were kind of just brought in because they were vulgar female comedians. They were really appealing to the male perspective of comedy. And that's shifting to me. I'm seeing a lot more women doing comedy for women, and everyone's laughing at it. Men can laugh at it too.
Right, because what's happening is now, and you'll see it when and guys do it too. I mean, when you first come on, you're doing comedy. What do you know when you're 22? You know, you don't. And I'm not being wise when I say that, but your life experiences, exploring sexuality, drinking with your buddies, and your parents.
Yeah.
So it's very limited. And I think what happened with women when they first came on, they thought, and they still do it. They come out with the vulgarness, with they start talking about the vagina.
Yeah.
The guy. A
little bit of a gross out factor.
Yeah, and it's if you put it in a funny way, but it's like anything else. It's just because you're doing something. That's not funny. What's the reason you're doing it?
Yeah.
What happened when you did that went wrong? Where's the turning point?
Instead of just being gross for the sake of grossness.
Yeah, and I remember I've seen a couple of female comedians say a lot of them. I guess there's a lot of women out there. There's always the daddy issues. I think there's a lot of that, and they would come
all have those.
They start talking about it and never got to a.
Like a comedy point? It was just
right.
Like
it was just, the fun, my father did this, and then, okay, I understand that's kind of humorous, but where's the interest? Where's the hook? So I think what's happened is they've gotten better and seen how to make it more diverse where everybody likes it. Guys,
it's
women.
Also, I'm sure the comedy was a big boys club for such a long time, too. Like, that's like any industry, I think, especially the arts. There's a lot of, all right, girls, you're kind of funny, but these days with YouTube and Netflix just signing up everybody for a special, girls are getting a lot more opportunities that I think that they didn't have before. And they should be. Absolutely.
And I was lucky. When I came in, I was and again, I was old when I came in, so I was kind of open to the world. So I never even, it was, when a woman was on stage, and especially since I was so new.
Yeah.
I was very interested to see it. I was more like, oh, not a girl. I was like, let me see and I met right off the bat, some good, talented women. I also met, some women where I just went, what is going on? But I've done that with guys, but it was much more with women. And again, I don't mean to be sexist, but, there's a few times where there's some guy on stage, you're going, what is this guy's off his rock? Does he even know what he's talking? But it was much more. With the women when they were up there, and I'd be going, what is...
And again, I think that comes back to the opportunities, right? Like, and as they're getting more opportunities, they're going to see a lot more people trying and failing.
I guess. I guess.
It's a numbers game.
Right,
so.
right. But it's like anything else. But, to get to the point, there are many funny female comedians out there. So
more and more.
Yeah, it should be.
Opportunity, right? Like that's such a big part with all of these industries. I think women need to have much more representation in our society.
Hey, listen, equal opportunity.
Absolutely.
Outcome's not going to always be equal, but
of
give everybody the equal.
It's still a market economy.
Yes.
Blah blah blah.
Right, you hit it right on the nose.
Well, anyways, let's get on to the next one. So, did you find any particular challenges to starting comedy at a later age then?
Yeah, for certain. Because you're the old guy on stage.
You're old and new.
Yeah, old and new. So it's like, what is this guy? What is? And I didn't feel it because I guess I don't know if I didn't care. I don't know, but it was more like I'm just doing it. I didn't think at the time 43 whatever I was old.
Yeah.
But now that I look back, I see guys who are starting out or not that good, and they're in their 50s or 60s or even the late 40s, and you're going, it's one thing if they're just starting and they're really going to do it. A lot of guys get into it the 40s, 50s. They're just
it. Yeah,
it's like a midlife crisis to them, and they're they get in, they get out. They're nothing. When I mean nothing, it's just. They're like a blip on the screen. Then there's guys who've been doing it. I know guys who've been doing it for 20, 30 years, and they suck, bro. I mean, same
it's
thing.
It's a passion.
They're just I don't even know if it's a passion. I think it's just, I don't know what it is. I think they like
habit now.
I think they like to say I do stand-up comedy, and there are people who seat the guys at the club, for a 5-minute set, and they're bouncing around town, maybe getting up on this show, getting up on that show. So I think when I started, people who were already semi-established or established saw me as another old guy who
just going through another midlife crisis.
Yeah, you know what? They're right. Because look at now I'm 60. Now I'm 61.
Yeah, but you've been sticking with it, right? And you've been like consistent.
Yeah, I've done all right. I do all right.
Yeah. I mean, you tour, you do shows, you go around, and like.
I'm getting to the point where, I can call a club.
Yeah.
And they can call, or they know me, and they'll say, yeah,
come do the show.
Come on here. While you're here, we got a spot.
That's the eventual dream for a lot of comics.
Right.
So you're living it. But yeah,
well,
so
I guess. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, so where, at first, I'm going to ask you where are the best audiences, and then I'm going to ask you about the worst audiences. So let's start with the best.
Do you mean by like area?
Yeah, sure. Or demographic or whatever.
Well, I would say the worst audience, obviously, is the woke.
The wokes.
Liberal, everybody get fly. I don't even know where you're at a comedy show.
Yeah.
So I would say those
people looking to be offended, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point of comedy, is to offend in a lot of ways.
And the thing was, when I first started out, it wasn't as hard. They didn't have the incredible, this woke thing really happened in in the last 5 minutes. So when I started, there was people, there's always people who are going to be offended, but it wasn't like groups. It was more like one person. They didn't like that you made a joke about a panda bear because they're extinct, or rape was always a tough subject.
Yeah.
Now it's like groups of people, and I've ran into it. I did a show for a It was a football wrestling for a high school. They're having their banquet. Yeah. And the kids were loving it. Yeah. I was goofing on the kids, and look at you play for some lady. We're offended. Lost her shit. I was like, oh my God. And the kids actually came out. Yeah. I left. I went out, and they kind of came out and ran out, and they go, listen, we were having a great. So you think you're educating, they see it. Now, they might eventually get indoctrinated into it where, they become that, but I don't know. But I would say woke audiences. Yeah. And that's anywhere. Yeah. Anywhere you go.
Well, on that topic, wokeness, I understand, people being overly sensitive. At the same time, the culture has shifted about what is acceptable to, joke about and not joke about. So homophobic jokes, right? In the early 2000s, that was rampant everywhere. And these days, it's you don't really do that anymore.
I think when you say it is the joke because homophobic, meaning
well, just the way that like Kevin Hart had to make the apologies before hosting the Oscars, and they still didn't let him host the Oscars for some old tweet from forever ago. And so that's a guy who's still really popular today, who said something before that it was probably popular back then, right? It was probably a really well-liked tweet, but now the culture has shifted. And all of our jokes, everything that these comedians have said, it's all on the record. And now we have to defend it, after the fact. That's
yeah,
weird.
well, I think is the difference between doing a joke about someone who's gay that's funny and doing a homophobic joke that you can make funny.
For sure.
If you're just doing a joke and it's listen, I don't like gay people.
Yeah, the subject is not taboo, but how we talk about it has changed. That's what's different. And hashtag Me Too, right? All of these things with women's jokes and stuff like that. That's we're shifting along. Comedy's still here.
Right.
We're still making jokes about all this stuff. People are still getting offended.
Right. Well, they're always going to get offended. Right. You've got to remember, there's a great Eddie Murphy joke that he did in. He did it on one of his specials.
Raw or something like that? Yeah.
In the 80s, where he was talking about.
Was it half?
Yeah, he was, and it's still funny to this day. And I don't think it's offensive. It'll probably still work today, but because of the gay culture is so much more accepted, it's probably not as shocking. But he said, I don't mind gay people. I'll play tennis with my gay friends. He goes, afterwards, we just do different things. He'd be like, hey, I'm thinking about going out for a beer. And they're like, yeah, I'm thinking about going out and sucking somebody. Well, you go suck that. I'll go get this. And so that's funny because
also context of the time, right? Like context of the time, that joke is an effort to normalize gay people in that time, in that culture, right? Where today, that joke would be, if you said that joke today, it's offensive.
You think that
well,
people will take offense?
So I got my finger a little close to the pulse.
Right, and I understand, but what he's basically saying is, I don't care if you're gay. I'll do everything I would. I'll do everything I'll do with somebody else's, but I'm not going to go out and do gay stuff. That
kind of statement is left unsaid today. You don't say that because it's obvious. Yeah, he's gay, whatever. Nobody cares. Yeah, we know he's
right.
Whatever. You don't even mention it. anymore.
But
Does that make sense? You wouldn't even say it out loud.
But I think you should be able to, and I'll tell you why. 'Cause that's the funny part of it.
Well-
I don't care. Listen.
Yeah.
What you do after tennis is so much different than what I do. But it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's cool. So I think that's what happens. People get afraid. I'll tell you a great story.
Yeah.
I was in the club. Let's get. I'll finish the last thing.
You're fine.
Anybody who wants to be offended, I don't want to say woke. Anybody who's easily offended. If you're just looking, I don't know. So I wouldn't say it's a demographic.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it's
an attitude.
anything like that. Yeah, depending where you are. I mean, I've done shows all over the Midwest. Great audiences. Minnesota, great audiences. Black audiences, the realest audience you'll ever get in front of. Because they do. You think they do that stuff you see on the. You
like
see
Apollo
at the Apollo.
stuff, yeah.
They're not booing. What happens if you get a black audience and they don't like what you're doing? They'll just ignore it.
Okay.
Start ordering drinks.
Yeah. Just like a normal audience, probably.
Yeah, but a little
a little more ignored.
Yeah, you feel the vibe.
Yeah.
But if they like you, they get on board with you. Forget it, man.
Rowdy, right?
Forget it. You'll have a ball, and that's with any audience. But it seems to be more when they're on when a black audience is on board with you, man. They'll take the ride.
Nothing better.
With you.
Is that it? That's good. Yeah.
So it's not really any demographic. It's just. If you can bring it's just a group of people. Once they come together, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's an animal. When they come together,
right?
it's one thing. So it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters where you are.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a good audience, and you can get a bad audience.
Yeah. Probably depending on how much alcohol they've had that night.
Sometimes drunker is better. Sometimes drunker isn't better.
You get the hecklers gain more confidence that way.
Hard to say. So getting back to what we were saying about people being offended, I was doing this show, and it was just when the older people were going, okay. See, I've been around gays and blacks and
New York. It's like pre-diversified.
Yeah, but even before other people, because I was from upstate New York, even before other people we had a very, I got mentally disabled brothers, so I got the whole gamut of things happening. But it was still, I'm an older man. So there's, and what people you got to give people a chance to catch up.
Yeah.
But I was already caught up, so
Yeah.
I was never offended by any type of talk.
Right.
So I'm doing a show in a club, and I say, I start talking about gays in the military. Before I could even get it out, my niece, and her niece must have just came out. Yeah, her niece must have just, my niece is gay, and she's overly, so I can tell it's new to her.
Yeah.
Because somebody who's had a gay niece since
they wouldn't
20
be shouting
years,
about it.
they would just be like, well, I have a gay niece.
Yeah.
My niece is gay, and I go, well, ma'am, listen.
You might like what I have to say.
I said, now listen. I go, listen to what I'm about to say. Just because I said the word gay doesn't mean that I'm going to say something offensive about the gays. I go, let me get to the end of this. I said, just like you said, I said, I think you might like this. I think you can. I said, at the end of this bit, if you're still offended, I'll never do it again. I'll make that promise to you. And she was like, all right. And then at the end of the bit, she like, because she wanted to not like it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, she kind of looked up. She went, okay.
See, but I love that and I appreciate that because that's also, putting your money where your mouth is, right? Like if this is really that bad by the end of it, all right, fine. You win, I'll quit.
Yes.
But you got to take those shots, right? Like you got to be willing to offend sometimes.
You got to be.
You have to.
Listen, that's if you're not willing to if you're not willing to offend or be offended or be offensive, the world is done.
Yeah.
Because I can't say, I might say something to offend that's offensive to you, that's 100% right, that's maybe changes people's mind or whatever it is. You got to take that chance about offended people or being offended. And people have said to me after my act in some places, because, especially when they get an audience that are real conservative, for lack of a better word, and they'll say, aren't you afraid of that you're going to be, you're going to get trouble? I go, you can't cancel me. Like I said the other night, I'm 61 years old. I'm performing in front of 40 people in the attic.
Yeah.
In a club in Bangkok. I go, where are you going to, I say it in the United States, so I'm at a VFW.
Yeah.
200 people in, West Pennsylvania. What are you going to banish me to? Where is it? How are you going to cancel me? How is this possible?
No.
So that's the good thing. And the rest of my life is so good.
Yeah.
I could not do stand-up comedy and still be okay.
Cool. Well, yeah, so passion project. You get to keep doing it, and that's
right.
nice and that's fun.
That's right.
Well, let's finish up very quickly. I wanted to ask you,
You didn't think we were going to get an hour in. We didn't even get close to
Are
all
you
the
kidding
questions
me? Not
yet.
at all, but that's okay. I just wanted to ask you, have you had any interesting celebrity run-ins as a stand-up in New York City? Has there been any fun stories there?
Well, I mean, you run into higher level comedians who are famous all the time. And another time, same club I was outside, I had this huge RV, the Mayhem and Madness comedy tour, because all these comedians told me if they had an RV, they could go all across the country. And so I, like the idiot I am, took comedians at their word, which you'll find out.
Don't do that.
No, liars. So I get an RV, and I have Mayhem and Madness comedy tour. So I was driving it in the city. I was actually living in it next to Central Park. So I had it parked in front of Stand Up New York, and Dave Attell's out front. Again, he's smoking a cigarette. I'm hanging out with a bunch of other comics. So we're talking, so I'm smoking. So he goes, so it's parked right out front. He's looking. He goes, what kind of pulls something like this up in front of a cop? Who would do something like that? Something with it? I'm going, what?
Yeah, what a prick.
Yeah, like none of the other comedians, even though it's mine, they're going, yeah, who does something like, I don't even know. What kind of ego? I'm going, what a piece of So we're going back. So we're bonding over it. Yeah, he goes, we're bonding, we're talking about it. And I go, all right, see you later. And I get in, I drive away. And as I drive away, I look in the rearview mirror and I just see looking like, oh, okay. So.
Well, I love it. Well, anyways, Rich, that's all our time, man.
There you go. One of the cameras went dead, didn't they? Didn't I hear?
So. Yeah, we lost
Didn't I hear a battery go dead?
We'll figure it out.
What kind of show are you guys producing?
No, man.
You don't have backup batteries?
It's going to look good. It's because we talked too long, that's it. But thank you so much for coming on.
Did they say we talked too long? Were they getting bored? Were they pacing in the back?
I'm telling you now.
Were they pacing in the back on when
That's
is this
our
asshole?
podcast, everybody. Thank you, Rich, for coming on. Rich Schultis, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And I wish you all the success with the show. Your stand-up comedy career.
Thank you very much.
Stand-up comedy career. Hope that all works out.
Fledgling.
All I can say is I hope you get a better production crew. That where their cameras last.
No.
I'm just kidding. Look, this guy's taking it serious.
You're
I hope he
gonna get me
doesn't
in
know
trouble
my
with these guys over
This
here.
guy likes it. This guy is not liking it. He must be the head guy.
Anyways,
but thank you for having me.
my
Guys,
pleasure.
you did a
Thank you
great
for
job
coming.
standing back there watching us.
Thank you, guys. All right.